Hey, Sustainable Systems. Um, Happy Tuesday. And today we are going to kind of continue the tour of Miss Quintia's house. We talked bathroom stuff last week. And this week we're going to talk a little bit about kitchen stuff. And now, probably most of you are not maybe the person that's in charge of the kitchen at your house, but a lot of you guys are going to be moving out and living on your own in the near future, whether that's first in maybe a dorm or an apartment with friends or whatever situation, you will have maybe a little, maybe a huge amount of responsibility over food preparation, and just running a kitchen. All right. So I thought, well, let's talk about some of the low waste options that are in a kitchen. And a little, I would say with bathroom, it's more you're dealing with low waste, but also with reducing toxins. Like I think your toxic load is probably the highest in the bathroom as far as like what you decide to put on and in your body. Now, in the kitchen, I think is the number one place you can decrease waste for a household. But there's also a few toxins to be aware of as well. Okay, so I'm going to try and, because I'm probably going to forget some stuff because there's so much involved in a kitchen. But I'm going to kind of start from, going to get food and then all the way through getting rid of your food. Okay, and what some choices are. So first, you would probably go to the grocery store. I will say I brought one of my little garlics out to represent this. Oh, I guess I have some dried peppers from the garden too. But one of the biggest ways to reduce the amount of waste is growing some of your own food because that's never going to be packaged, right? Okay, like this garlic is from last year. I grow quite a few heads of garlic, and if you cure them right, they'll keep and be delicious all year long. But you're definitely going to have to go to the grocery store for some things. And so we all know this. We got to bring our bags, okay? And, even now, I know at least at Smith's, you can bring bags. You just have to bag it yourself. And one of the things with bags that a lot of people don't think about is produce stuff. So I have a lot of produce bags. It's crazy to get that thin plastic, horrible bags in the produce section just to put your oranges that already have a seal around them in that bag for literally 20 minutes while you shop and come home and then throw that bag away. So for those things like oranges, I wouldn't even put in a bag. I would just pile onto the register. But some things I like to put in a bag, like maybe like lettuce, cilantro, and things like that. So I have some produce mesh bags for that. And then I try and buy a lot of stuff in bulk, and I use mesh bags for some of that. Some of it would be you wouldn't want to put in a mesh bag because it would like maybe I'm doing like quinoa. It would probably go through those little holes. So I have assortment, and this is a smaller one. I have a whole bunch of different sizes of bags for things like some of the things I get in bulk all the time are different kinds of nuts, raisins, oats, rice, quinoa. Sometimes I'll do a trail mix or something like that. But there's a lot of options. We have a lot more options for bulk now than we used to. Okay, I've mentioned these guys before, but it's always good to support a local company and a company that you can reuse the bottle. So this is empty. I'll wash it out and bring it back and get some olive oil from Genesis Kitchen. Okay. Another thing that Sundrop does is you can buy your seasonings in bulk. So you bring in your jars, they'll zero it out and then pour whatever seasonings you want, whatever spices you want into the jar. And they are so much cheaper that way too, and better quality. And then if you're going to grow, if you want to start growing one thing to kind of ease into it, something that's probably pretty easy to grow in pots A lot of them are perennials, just easy to grow in general. They're herbs. So these are some of my dried sage, but I do like rosemary, thyme. Those are some of the perennials, but then also, and then sage, chives, let's see, and then some that are annuals as well. Okay, that's a great place to start. And mint is like practically invasive. It's so easy to grow. So those are some things that would be easy to grow if you wanted to step into growing some herbs. All right, so you get all these groceries that hopefully have very limited packaging because you brought your bags and you brought your mesh bags and you reuse things. So hopefully you have pretty limited packaging by the time you get home. And then you need to put it away. And so I have like a bajillion different types of jars, and I think they look pretty in there too. I try and stick with glass, okay? So there's no leaching of any weird chemicals. Glass is completely inert, okay? So it's not gonna leach anything into your food. I don't use this a ton, but sometimes if you want something in stainless steel versus glass. And I love looking at all my glass jars with the food in them. I don't know, I find that enjoyable. And then I got Tupperwares as well. I see you guys eating lunch with those a lot of the times. Sometimes you kind of want to put something in a baggie. I have an assortment of different size reusable baggies. These guys have Velcro on them, to bring like a bunch of nuts somewhere or something like that. These are kind of new. I got for Christmas, and I love them because, like, for example, sometimes we'll make a bunch of something, maybe like soup, and this is a smaller size. There's even bigger ones that I have. And you want to freeze it, okay? You can actually fill this up with like a liquid. It's pretty solid. It's like the silicone-based material, and it's water, like it actually seals shut with this guy, so it doesn't leak out at all. And sometimes, most of the time, I find you can actually freeze stuff in glass, but you have to leave room for expansion. But if this is a little bit safer for some of those liquids, okay? Then maybe you eat, like for example, I'm giving pumpkin to my dog right now because his tummy's upset. And I'll get it out. But I don't give them the whole thing. And so these beeswax or different kinds of wax, reusable, kind of to replace that plastic wrap stuff, are really nice for that. And another thing, like, since I usually make like a soup for a week and I pull a few cups out of it a day, to cover something a little bit larger. And I love look how well this seals. Okay, it's holding, I'm just holding the lid and it's holding that glass bowl. Okay, but then if you pull from one side, it comes off really easy. These are silicone as well, and they'll replace plastic wrap too. So it's nice to have a few of those. Okay, so now you can kind of store your materials without using any plastics, which is nice, and keep them sealed and fresh. Okay. Then a big part of actually having a low waste kitchen is cooking and not buying prepared foods. If you try to go lower waste, you will probably end up eating healthier too, because you can't, sorry, I paused for a second. But anyway, like by eating low waste, less packaging, you're just going to end up eating healthier too. So a little side bonus. Things like, and I'm really lucky because my husband is definitely more of the cook. Like he made this awesome raspberry huckleberry dressing, from scratch versus buying the bottled processed products. Okay. But when you're cooking, you'll have to use an assortment of things, and I would steer clear of plastic utensils of any kind. like stick with like stainless steel or something like this, that's silicone instead of plastic, for something like a spatula. Okay, and one of the biggest toxins to get away from are anything that has non-stick on it. Teflon or anything else that's coated in non-stick. So like pans, I'm a big fan of cast iron. You do get a little iron in your food, which is usually good for most people, but there are a few cases where you might not want that. But you can find other pans with non-stick. One of the hardest ones for me to find was some baking dishes that were non-stick, but that don't have any non-stick coating, but they are out there. Okay, and so that is one area that will take a little research to find things, perhaps. Okay. All right. And then if you want to take the food out, you guys are pretty good at that. I know a lot of you have like lunch boxes. You remember mine? And your reusable spork and straw and all that good stuff. If you're bringing liquids, like a mason jar is fantastic, right? But there are ways, and of course you got your water bottle. There are ways to bring food out to like potlucks and bigger situations as well. Like I think a lot of people always revert back to like the plastic trays and stuff. But a lot of that stuff, especially if you're reheating it, can be, release toxins into the food. So especially if you're reheating anything, make sure it's in glass or something else that's inert that's not going to release toxins back into your food. Okay. All right. So you make all this food, you make it from scratch. It's delicious, it's healthy. You can keep it for later without, using plastic wraps or anything like that. Amazing. But you are going to have some food waste. And so at my house, I just have a bin that we put everything in, the compost bin. And we're lucky enough that we have chickens, so I can pretty much put anything in here and I just throw it to the chickens. They'll eat it. What they don't eat, like maybe there's an orange rind or something like that, I just every once in a while rake up everything they don't eat and then throw it into the compost bin. And that's nice because I can throw out like cooked pasta or something like that, and they will eat that. Whereas that might not be something you would want to throw into a compost bin. Okay. Compost, if you are doing your own compost at home, I would suggest just doing, fruits, vegetables, and then any kind of like, you could throw in like newspaper or something like that, or straw if you needed a carbon source. But I would stick away from cooked foods that have oils or dairy or things like that, because they don't compost that well in small compost heaps. They don't quite get hot enough. I would look into, and I'm bummed because I was going to have Alyssa from Dirt Rich come into our class and go over her worm bin that she uses. But I bet even in a college dorm, you could easily have a little vermiculture set up, have some red wiggler worms that are breaking down your food, and then be able to use that on some of your plants or something like that. Okay, so that could be fun. So then we get rid of food waste, and hopefully, you don't have too much trash. What I've noticed recently, one, because my dog has been kind of sick, so I've been having to feed him wet food. But just in general, the one waste that I'm doing a bit of right now, because our recycling changed, is the canned food is no longer recycled here, which is a bummer. So those cans have definitely been a bit of my waste, and I need to think about maybe figuring out ways to get some of that stuff in bulk. But that's just a future project for me to see if maybe I could make beans instead of just buying the canned beans. We'll see. Okay. And then at the very end, you need to clean up your area. Okay. This is one area that the kitchen can be super toxic. I know when I was a kid, it was like under the kitchen counter, and my mom's a little bit of a clean freak. Under the kitchen sink was like danger zone. She had ammonia, bleach, all these like crazy cleaners, like 409, toilet bowl cleaner, all this stuff under there. And it had a child safety lock because like everything in there could like really hurt a kid. Well, I don't really want any chemicals in my house that could really hurt someone if like a pet or a kid got into it. And then all those things are going to end up going down the drain at some point too. And many of you mentioned this with the cleaning with that top 10. A lot of you guys were talking about cleaners. And really, so much can be solved with vinegar. Okay. So my surface cleaner is vinegar, water, and I put in just a touch of biodegradable dish soap. That helps cut the grease. Now, if I was doing surface like glass and stuff, I would just use vinegar and not have the soap in it. You can add citrus, you could add lemon juice to those as well, especially if you're maybe doing a wood surface. Then to really get the grime, baking soda. I'm kind of proud of this. Made my own little jar that I can shake out because I like shaking it on things, you know? All you do is take a little nail and punch a bunch of holes in this old pickle canister. And now I have a dispenser for my baking soda, okay? 99% of anything can be cleaned with that, okay? I do use the dishwasher, and there's some cool options for dishwashers out there that, you know, I chose this because it wasn't a plastic jug, but it does have a little plastic lining on the outside of the cardboard. And this lasts quite a while and is, you can look to see what's in there, make sure there's nothing too toxic. And lots of times it'll say biodegradable. That's a good clue that you're on the right track. Okay, I hope this didn't take too long, but that's my quickie little tour of the kitchen. I'm sure I forgot some stuff, so why don't below you post in the comments some additional things that you've heard of or used in your kitchen to decrease waste. Thanks. Have a good day.